In this video, we're going to talk about the options you see when you select an object with the Select and Modify Objects tool, the black arrow in the tool palette. So if I select the letter P that I drew, I get that gray bounding box that I talked about. And so in the upper left corner of that gray bounding box, you see an X in a circle. If I tap that, that will allow me to delete whatever I've selected. I'm going to Control Z and get that back. I'll tap on the P again to see my other options. The next option you see at the top of that gray bounding box is to duplicate the selected object. So if I tap that, I can have a duplicate of the P that I drew and move that around as a separate object. I'm going to undo that. Select the P again. The third option, the third circle I see at the top, will allow me to either lock the object on the page so that it can't be altered in any way, it can't be moved or edited if it were text. And the other option I see on that submenu that comes out is visible on the extended screen. And what that means is if I'm projecting this onto a big screen in front of the classroom, I can choose to make that visible on the projected screen or not. And these are buttons that toggle. So if I tap locked, I can't move that P, but if I select it and tap locked again, then I can move that P around. You'll notice with the gray box that you get around whatever you've selected, you have little lines on all four sides of whatever you've selected. And let me zoom in a little bit so that we can see it a little better. So you see I have lines on all four sides of the gray lines, the select. So that allows me to resize the object that I've selected, but it's going to skew the object, but it'll allow me to make it bigger or smaller. If I want to proportionately resize it, I can use the lines in the bottom right corner, and so that'll keep its proportions but make it smaller or larger. And let me get back to my regular view. With the Select and Modify Objects tool, if I draw a selection marquee around multiple objects on my page, I get another option that will allow me to group the items. So if I tap that button, if I group them, then it allows me to move them all together. If I tap it again, I can move an individual object. Also, with an individual object, or if they're grouped together, you'll notice that there is a white double-headed arrow in the upper right corner of the selection gray box. That will allow me to rotate the object. The other thing that you can do with the Selection and Modify tool is you can change the Z order arrangement, or how objects overlap each other on the page. And so let me zoom in a little bit so that you can see this. And if I bring the P over by where I've written the word blue, you'll notice that the P is underneath of the letter B. And that's because I wrote the P first on the page, so the P, whatever's first added to the page, is going to be underneath anything that's written after that first object was written or added to the page. And so if I want the P to come in front of the letter B in blue, I'll select that P, and then down here in the bottom left corner I can tap. If I want to bring the the P forward, I can tap it a couple times and bring that P forward, or I can tap the other button and send it backwards. So that's how you can change how objects overlap with each other on the page. You can also change the vertical and horizontal symmetry of an object that's selected. So let me zoom in again. Let me select that P. And then if I select it, I can drag to the left or right and flip it horizontally, or I can click and flip it vertically. So that's some of the features that you can do with the Select and Modify Objects tool when you've selected an object on your page.